My name is Jethro Castillo with vCom Solutions, providing companies the tools, resources, and information they need to manage their technology better. Today, we're talking about the channel. With me is Graeme Scott, Vice President of Advanced Networks and Mobility for Telarus, a large technology services distributor. With over 15 years of industry experience as both a supplier and now with a TSD, Graeme brings extensive knowledge and experience to the channel. Also with us is Brandon Hampton, vCom's Vice President of Partner Management, to shed some light on the channel from the vCom side. Graeme and Brandon, how are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Yeah, glad to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, fantastic. Really excited to have Graeme here and excited for the conversation.
Awesome. Well, Graeme, I kind of just said the channel, and obviously I'm not talking about the 50 channels you might have on your TV. So what exactly do we mean when we say the channel?
Yeah, or the English channel, right? A channel of water. So the channel is basically a method of distribution, right? It's just one way to get your product to market. And a lot of providers, suppliers in our portfolio rely on that. So really the channel is an indirect channel method of distribution. So you're going through a third party, usually through a broker, in our case, Telarus, right? That's who I work for. We're a broker. We have all these kinds of relationships with suppliers, and then they get access to our base of partners or technology advisors through that. So it's the channel that goes in there. That term, it's used a lot of different ways, but that's how we refer to it.
Yeah. Do you mind giving an example? I guess you kind of did, but sometimes I get a little confused between the difference between suppliers and partners and then the actual consumer on the other end. Just clarify that again.
Yeah. No, so the end user or customer, right, is the consumer on the other end. So in our case, that's almost always a business. We do pretty much only commercial. And then they have a partner or a trusted advisor or technology advisor, or the terms they use, that they work with, right? And so that individual is someone that they reach out to when they need help with technology and whatever. And then that technology advisor goes, okay, great. I've got my end user customer that has a problem, has some kind of a situation that I need to address. Where do I go to find those solutions? And so that's where someone like Telarus steps in and says, we have access to all of these solutions through relationships with our suppliers. And you as a tech advisor, by being a partner with Telarus, can then sell those to your end user customer. So what we do is we kind of stand in the middle between the person providing the solution, meaning the supplier, and the person utilizing the solution, in this case, the customer through the partner. And we provide sales enablement. So access to those suppliers, as well as training, so when best to use those suppliers, what suppliers are best for what application, and that sort of thing. So that's our role in the middle there as a facilitator and an enabler. So
Gotcha. That makes sense. Obviously, you can kind of talk about the channel forever. How did you exactly get started in the IT channel space?
Yeah, so I think like a lot of people, I was working on the direct side. So I worked for Comcast back in the day, and I was out, carrying a bag, as they call it, knocking on doors and talking to customers. And, that was great. It was a great way to learn. And I recommend anybody who's looking at starting in sales, start in that type of role, because you really learn the grind, right? You learn the day-to-day, you learn those processes and procedures that will serve you well as you move on in your career. So a good friend of mine, Chris Whitaker, we both worked at Comcast together, and Comcast was spinning up this thing called the channel. And I was like, well, what is that all about? I don't know. And so Chris ended up getting the first job with Comcast in the channel. And so Chris and I have been friends for a long time. So through just me getting to know him and learning about what he was doing, I thought, you know what? This seems pretty cool. I had worked with a lot of referral partners as a direct rep at Comcast, and I ran a sales team, and we had a lot of referral partners we worked to. And I said, really, that's kind of just, allows you to, it's a force multiplier for your efforts, right? Bringing in these referrals, that's a door you don't have to knock on. And a lot of times it's a door you can't knock on. There's somebody that's there. So this whole sort of ecosystem existed to bring those leads in. And then, but these people who are referring wanted to get paid. So that's where the sort of channel comes in. And through my relationship with Chris, I found out that there was an opening for a channel person with charter communications, which was obviously now Spectrum. But so I applied for that job and got my first channel job there, and haven't changed back since.
What's your favorite part about working in it? Why do you kind of stay in the space?
Well, I think the best thing about it is the relationships. I mean, you build these long-term, really strong relationships with the partners and the people that you work with, both on the supplier side and through the tech advisors. So that's one. I think, a lot of times you go to these events, especially the bigger ones like Vegas and even our partner summit that we're holding in August of this year. It almost feels like kind of a reunion. Like, you go in there and you get to meet a bunch of people that you know and that you've worked with and had conversations with. It's a lot of fun. So that's one aspect. And then I think the second aspect that I love about the channel is that, you look at all these different technologies and none of them exist in a vacuum, right? They all kind of work together to build some kind of an overall solution for a business. And what I love about the channel is just all these different things that you get to sell and talk about that are part of that picture. So one of the things when you work directly for a supplier, you're somewhat limited to that supplier's portfolio, right? What they sell. At the time when I worked at Comcast, for example, all we had was coax circuits, and then they added voice. So it's fairly limited. The channel, especially in the role I'm in now, there's just so many different things in there you can talk about and so many different buckets you can go to pull a solution that to me is really what's fun about it.
Yeah, no, the more you describe the channel, the more it sounds like a cheat code. You suddenly have a combined array of not just knowledge, but solutions and services that even if you were just the end user, which is not the customer, which is not really engaged in this relationship, the customer suddenly gets access to a whole array of solutions that they never even thought possible, that they couldn't do even if they studied IT and the market for years.
Well, and really the power of that relationship is what I'd call the aggregation of all of those customers, right? So you've got so many customers, you're a customer, you only, work from your one aspect, but us on the channel side, we work with, hundreds of customers across hundreds of industries. So the ability to apply that information and that knowledge that we've gained to your individual situation as a customer or end user is fairly impactful. Things like, this is what's worked with other companies in your industry. That kind of statement is strong. And again, knowing that, hey, I've got your best interest in heart, Mr. Customer, because I can sell any of these suppliers, not just the one that the logo's on my golf shirt, So I think that's the power there.
I feel like everyone should kind of lean into the channel if applicable. What is the current state of the IT channel space? Why, I guess a clarifying question is, why isn't everybody just in the channel trying on all sides, supplier, provider, customer, partner?
Yeah, I think I'm obviously biased, right? But I think a lot of people still don't know about it and are still learning about it. It's kind of one of those best kept secret. So that's one aspect. I mean, you're seeing, to start with, the state of the channel is amazing right now. Very, very healthy, right? It's still kind of a good secret for a lot of areas, but it's starting to get out because you're seeing a lot of this private equity money now gravitate towards the channel. And that's always a sign that good things are happening, right? Like if I'm a investor and I want to put my money somewhere, I want maximum return. So the fact that this money is coming into our space, I think tells you mostly what you need to know about what's going on here, that things are going great, things are profitable. So then to answer your question about why everybody's not in the channel, well, I think there's a lot of different philosophies out there. Some people feel like, some suppliers potentially feel like they lose control when they hand off to the channel, like when they bring in a technology advisor or channel partner, they lose control over that sale. And I think sometimes that holds some of them back from doing that. And again, that ability to control, like, hey, I know that if you engage, you're going to sell what's the logo that's on your shirt because you work for me. So that's what I want. So some companies, I think, still want that. You see a lot of companies that have both a channel and a direct sales team for that reason. And then again, I think a lot of businesses just don't know about it. They don't know that it's here, that there's this whole ecosystem of people available to get out there and spread your word. So, I like being part of the best kept secret,
I mean, best kept secret, but you also mentioned, right, kind of private equity money's coming in, it's growing. What do you think happened recently, last 5 years? I don't know the time frame exactly. Why is the channel now growing the way that it is? And do you think that will continue moving forward?
Yeah, no, I mean, I really do. I think if you look at where technology has gone, I think that has facilitated a lot of this growth because solutions are just becoming more and more complex, right? There's so many more pieces to it that if I'm a small business owner, I really need help, even a medium or enterprise business, I really need help determining what is the best solution for me. And a lot of times, my internal IT staff, you're asking them to do something that's really outside their wheelhouse, to look at solutions and services that they may not be well knowledged in or experienced in. So I think, the continued advancement of technology, and obviously, Brandon and I work a lot on mobility and IoT, like these kinds of solutions that are coming to the market. Businesses need help deciphering what to do, how to deploy it, how to implement it. What is the best solution for me? And that's really hard for them to get on their own. So bringing in a technology advisor, somebody who, again, has that aggregate experience or has access to that aggregate experience, can be very powerful for businesses. So I think that is one of the reasons why you're seeing a huge amount of growth in the channel. As these solutions get more and more complex, businesses just don't want to do it on their own, and they're leveraging these types of organizations and relationships.
And regarding Telarus, how do you think Telarus is positioned for this growth?
Well, I think I really got to, again, I know I'm biased, but I really got to tip my hat to our leadership team that sort of saw this train coming down the tracks a number of years ago and decided to invest in these advanced solutions. So the way Telarus is set up, we have divided these sort of advanced solutions into practices. And there's an individual that is over that practice, and I'm one of them. I'm over advanced networks, mobility, and IoT. And my role is to make sure that I am on top of all the advancements that are happening there, that I know what's going on in the industry, that I can inform our tech advisors or partners of these trends so that they can take advantage. So I think, Telarus was very strongly positioned for this advance. And I really got to credit our leadership for seeing this coming and making those investments.
I have a few questions about the nature of both sides of this, the partners and the suppliers. But before we get into that, kind of to close this line of questioning, what are you most excited about when it comes to the future? But conversely, what are you looking out for? What worries you or concerns you about the future of the channel?
Well, I think that the big overarching thing that's going on right now that everybody's kind of wondering what's going to happen is AI, right? I mean, we're starting to see AI in a lot of the products and services we have. Mostly it's a productivity tool right now, and I think that's awesome. Businesses, again, are wondering, hey, how do I utilize AI? How do I implement this in my business effectively? And they need help. But there's also the other side of that coin too, that fear of losing control and what AI may become. So I think, the next sort of few years of the channel and even technology in general is going to be really defined by AI and what we do with it and where it goes. I think that to me is it's exciting, and it's also kind of scary, to see what's going to happen there. So
for sure. In addition to AI, smooth transition into the next set of questions. In addition to AI, what are some other partner challenges and concerns in the channel that you're kind of hearing today?
Yeah, so I think just staying on top of everything that's going on, right? AI is just one area where there's constant advancement, and I think you're seeing that across the board. Like even within these spaces, things are changing. So I'll give you an example. One of my areas is advanced network, and so people are like, "Well, what does that even mean?" And I think the truth is that the way we ingest or utilize network resources as companies has changed dramatically over the last few years. What we ask of our network has changed over the last few years. So, back in the day when I was slinging cable circuits for Comcast, it was just, you're installing a single cable circuit and that was your connectivity. You got some stuff off the internet. You did this, maybe did a little research, did some email. Well, now fast forward 20 years later, and how much other stuff are we using that network for, right? Cloud services, our voice rides on that network now, whereas before it didn't. So there's so many things that are changing there so rapidly that I think it's really hard for partners and just like business, it's really hard for partners themselves to stay on top of everything that's going on. So that education component that Telarus provides I think is really, really key. And as a tech advisor, those are the things that they look for. Like, how can you help me get better at selling these technologies?
I love it. You have a tech advisor for the tech advisor.
Right.
This is what it sounds like. And so then to be the tech advisor, what do you feel like partners can do to address these challenges and concerns? Is it just going to I imagine going to a channel is one solution, but what are some other ways partners can address kind of staying on top of everything, not just by education, but also by actual application of solution?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think obviously you could stay on top of these things. There's various blogs and publications and newsletters and things like that that you can subscribe to that'll, keep you on top of a specific technology or a specific product that you're interested in. But I think just, that's, again, one of the things that Telarus really provides well is a variety of ways that you can educate yourself as a tech advisor on what's going on. We have live in-person events that we do in markets. We have weekly calls that we do every week on a certain topic. We call it our high intensity tech training, where we tackle, some aspect of a technology and what's going on there. And we have a whole set of courses in our back office, what we call Telarus University. So I think really that is one of the key roles that technology service distributors play, is stepping in there and saying, hey, you don't have to go this alone. You can come to us. And, even if you are going alone, a lot of these guys, it's like, okay, I understand this, but I don't really know how to apply it. I don't really know what this means for my business or my customers. Like, I understand what's going on. And AI is a great example there, right? My customers would call me, asking about AI. I understand kind of what AI is, but I don't really know how to deploy it or my customers should be utilizing it. So those are some of the things that we offer as value adds for our partners.
And I can kind of get a hint of what the answer to the next question will be. But you work with a lot of partners. What are the partner traits you've noticed that make partners successful?
Well, actually, I'm going to go back to the beginning of the conversation where I talked about, those habits you build as a young salesperson, knocking on doors, grinding. I think, the partners that are really successful haven't lost that, right? They still love the grind. They love getting out there. They love getting in front of customers and prospecting for new customers. I think, at the end of the day, you have to find customers. And then when you find them, you have to keep them. So I think the other trait that really goes in there is those partners and tech advisors. I use that term interchangeably, but, keeping on top of the information so that when their customers call them, they have an answer, they have a solution for them, they can help them. Because ultimately at the crux of all of this is this relationship aspect where I, as a customer, call my tech advisor because I need help with something. And if they can't help me, that's where everything kind of breaks down, So number one, partners that find those customers are good. And then number two, the partners that do a great job of keeping those partners by making sure that they're adding value through those interactions is really key.
And then, we take it to your level and it's the same thing, right? You guys also have to be equally as hungry to be knowledgeable and trustworthy for the tech advisors, for the partners.
Exactly.
The partners go to Telarus and go, we trust you and your suppliers and your solutions. Tell us what I should do in this specific scenario. And you retain them as a partner, right?
Yeah.
On that note, there's the other side of the channel, which are the suppliers, right? The companies that you give to the tech advisors to then bring to their customers. What traits, similar question to before, what traits do you see in suppliers that are having success, and why are partners choosing to work with these suppliers perhaps over others?
Yeah, so again, I think this is one of the roles that the technology service distributor plays here, is just going through these myriad lists of suppliers and vetting them, right? And saying, like, who can work with us? So there's really three things I look for when I'm talking to suppliers, and I get approached all the time by companies that are in my sort of areas, which is advanced network, mobility, IoT. I get approached by companies in those areas all the time, like, hey, I want to get in the portfolio. How do I do that? And there's really three things I'm looking for. So number one is a defined use case. Like, what does your product do? Is there a definition around it? Is it a defined use case? And then secondly, is there a need that I can pair that with, right? So it's got to do something. It's got to do something that is easily defined. And there's got to be a need for it, right? There's got to be hey, customers have a need for this, because sometimes it's like, okay, great, I understand what it does, but I don't understand why anybody would need it. And that to me is kind of where some of that breaks down. And I think the third thing from a Telarus standpoint that we always look for is a commitment to the channel, right? A commitment to this model of distribution. And that means compensation, right? The compensation has to be of a certain type, has to be of a certain level, and has to be guaranteed, right? There's a lot of suppliers that sort of come and go into the space. Hey, everybody loves the business when it's coming in, right? And they don't mind paying for it. But then, down the road, when the partner's retaining that customer and keeping them in the fold, sometimes companies think, well, why am I still paying this customer for this, or this partner for this customer that signed on 3-4 years ago? Well, that's part of the whole deal. And we look for that. Those are the kinds of things we look for in contracts and relationships.
This becomes an interesting dynamic now that I think about it. On all the relationships you have to maintain, you have to convince, I have to get this right, you have to convince the partners that to stay with you because you have valuable assets and you have valuable suppliers. You also have to convince the suppliers that you'll be able to provide them the partners that they need to kind of make that income. But on the other side, you have that same question for them. Like, will you provide the value we need to be able to go out and ensure we keep the trust of our partners? I don't know if you can shed any insight on that, but it sounds like a lot of perfect balancing, if you will, to ensure that everybody's kind of happy.
Yeah, no, you sort of playing that middleman and making those matches and making those relationships. It's really key. Like, you're only as good as what you have on either side, right? Like, to your point, the value that we provide to the suppliers is access to the tech advisors or partners. And again, that term is somewhat interchangeable. And then the value for the tech advisors or partners is access to the suppliers and the right suppliers. And they trust us to make sure that we've done that vetting process so that if they do business with those guys, they're protected. And so that's kind of the role they have in there. And then, of course, there's also that education piece on both sides, like to the suppliers, like, hey, here's what partners are looking for. Here's how you can better position yourself to take advantage of this ecosystem. And then on this side, hey, Mr. Partner, here's what your customers are looking for. Here's a bunch of these suppliers that we've brought in that meet those needs. So it's kind of, you're right. It's a little bit of a balancing act and playing that in. But, those are definitely our two biggest stakeholders, and we treat them both as well as we can.
Yeah. No, I think this is a cool, I don't want to minimize it to a concept, but the channel is kind of a really cool idea and the way that it functions. Like I said, we have Brandon here, and he's not just here to look pretty.
Although he's doing that.
He is doing that.
I'm usually just eye candy.
But obviously with Brandon here, vCom operates as a supplier. I think we also operate as something else for Telarus, but for the sake of this conversation, supplier. Let's talk about this relationship, the relationship between vCom and Telarus. Graeme, I'll direct this question to you, but Brandon, feel free to chime in with things that you think you can provide here. How do you feel vCom can help address the challenges of partners that you're seeing in the space right now?
Yeah, so I think, obviously vCom started the relationship with Telarus as a partner, right? And so saw that value that Telarus offered and provided. But then as vCom sort of progressed and started handling its customer base, it became very clear that you guys were really, really good at certain things. And I mean, obviously the mobility practice is something that we leverage you guys for quite a bit. So I think that's a really powerful thing, that vCom was so successful at managing their mobility relationships that they said, hey, maybe we can do this for other partners as well, help them out. And so they have been, vCom has been I've been in this role since October of last year. And our relationship with vCom has only grown over the last several months as we continue to engage you more and more to help other partners with solutions that you guys have mastered almost, right? So I don't know, Brandon, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think the one word that kept coming up as you both were talking was trust, and it's just so critical at every aspect of working in the channel. You've got to have trust with the supplier and the TSD or the Telarus. There has to be trust between the partner and Telarus, and then the partner and the supplier, because the trust between the partner and the customer is really why we're in this. And that's why those partners are successful, because they bring the customer and there's a trusted relationship there. So I think really interesting. We've got some great solutions and some great products, and we're getting mind share because of that. But I think we're keeping mind share in a way because in a way, I see us as a bit of a disruptor in the channel. And I think it's because of that trust factor. And I don't know that that was our intent when we got into this, but for example, registering deals has always been a thing in the channel. And there's an opportunity when a partner brings a supplier a deal and registers that specific deal. Anything else for that customer is technically fair game. And there have been lots of stories where suppliers or other partners can go in and take other deals from that same customer. Creates a lot of mistrust. And I'm new to the channel. I've only been in this role for 8 months, really surprised by the level of mistrust and the fact that we built a model where you register customers with us. So anything sold to that customer you're getting paid for and credit for is a disruptor. And it surprises a lot of partners. And I think just being able to lead with that type of kind of game-changing idea is building trust. And I think we're keeping mind share because of that. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about our products. We do have a lot of differentiation from what's in the channel today. But I really think trust is the product that we're all selling. And when people trust each other, they do a lot of business together. I think that's proven over time.
Well said. Well said.
And Brandon, you mentioned differentiators, and Graeme, I'm putting this question back to you, and we'll run it in the same sort of order. Why do you think vCom is different? What is it about vCom's value proposition that resonates with you? And maybe it is that trust factor that Brandon brought up. And if so, let's kind of dive deeper into that from your point of view. And ultimately, how is vCom positioned to take advantage of this channel growth that you're seeing?
Yeah, so I think the relationship that I have primarily with vCom is around the mobility practice, right? As I've said a few times. And I think you've got a couple of things there. You've got obviously a technology space that is growing tremendously, right? It's a mobile world. Everything that can go mobile will go mobile. I'm a firm believer in that. And you look at the numbers and where things are going. I mean, everything is going mobility. So again, you've got these tech advisors and partners that are sort of trying to get their head around that. Maybe they're used to selling different types of technology products and different types of services. And so they're coming to this with, hey, help me figure this out. Help me figure out how I can help my customers do that. And so when you insert someone like vCom into the equation that is doing that well across, again, an aggregate of customers, a large number of customers, you bring in that expertise. And I think for the partner, the tech advisor, those relationships with that customer is like, that's their baby. And they want to make sure that they're handing it off to the right person to not only take care of what they need, but also for any kind of future opportunities. And that is where that piece that Brandon was talking about, registering the customer versus the opportunity, I think that is a big deal. Because again, if I'm a tech advisor and I bring you my customer, I don't want you to worry that you're going to come behind my back and do that. So saying, hey, anything that happens with that customer through us is yours. You get a piece of that. I think that is a unique aspect and really has helped sort of endear vCom to a number of the partners that are doing business with them.
I now understand. I understand now. Okay, I understand. Brandon, do you have anything to add?
Very well said, Graeme. The only thing I would add is that one of the ways that I've described our differentiators to some of the partners that seems to resonate with them is that there are traditional TEM firms in our industry where like the Tangos and the Claros of the world that sell TEM services. They do a great job at that. And then there are aggregator type companies like the Granites or the Mettels or the Bullseyes of the world that are basically buying services and selling them on their own paper as part of a wholesale offering. And those are called aggregators. And I think our differentiator is that we're both. Like we can take the traditional TEM services, and if that's what a customer needs, we can offer that. Or we can offer all the aggregation services and the benefits that come along with aggregated buying power, having all your services on a single bill from vCom. There's a lot of advantages to that as well. We can take all of those and combine it. And we do it for mobile. And as Graeme has said, mobile's been a big leader for us in the channel. We also do it with network, and we've got a lot of network customers and opportunities in the channel as well that have been really successful. So we do it for both, as well as other services like cloud and collaboration. And when we provide those TEM type services, we can manage all your technology spend. So that's I think our real differentiator, and it creates some really interesting opportunities to really help customers manage transitions in a smoother way, more not have to kind of jam services down their throat and have them ingest them really quickly. We can really build a roadmap where it can be digestible over a longer period of time. And that seems to have resonated with a lot of customers and partners. So I think that's another way that we really differentiate ourselves.
Yeah, and just to build on that, I think, like I said earlier, right, none of these technologies exist in a vacuum, right? They all kind of work together. So inevitably, you start the conversation one place and it evolves into others. And I think having somebody that can do that journey with you is very powerful.
Yeah, with that being said, what types of partners, customers would be an ideal fit for vCom in general?
Well, I mean, I think, again, a lot of partners and our tech advisors are really kind of struggling to get their head around mobility, right? And where we're going with that. One of the stats I talk about in my Ascend events, which is, again, is one of the education, is around that 53.1% of all telecom spend will be mobility by like 2027. So that's over half, and so a lot of these partners are starting to look at that, go, man, I got to get in on this game, but they're not familiar with it. They don't understand it. And so having somebody that they can leverage. So really, I think, a lot of our partners that have a big customer base that they've sold a lot of products and services to over the years, but maybe haven't tackled that mobility piece. That's an area that I've been engaging vCom to have conversations, be like, hey, let's bring these guys in. They know what they're talking about. They're good at it. They will help guide that conversation for you and with you as you help your customer and, bring these solutions into place.
Yeah, that's awesome. The only thing I would add, that's a great answer, is that I think traditionally our company has been just a seeker of pain. We're always looking for the pain points. So where is a customer having challenges and pain? And a lot of it is around mobility. That can be a very painful service to support and manage and pay for. And that is a big one. But there are a lot of other services where we go in and really just identify what is a customer's need, where are their challenges, where are they losing sleep, where are they wasting the most money, and really understand how we can help them from that perspective too. And that's usually our approach. So that's any company, right, Jethro? I mean, that could be just about anybody. Just most of them have some kind of pain somewhere in managing their technology spend.
Seeker of pain. That out of context, that's a very interesting way to describe. I like it. Graeme, I appreciate that. Obviously, I am also biased, like you have mentioned with Telarus. I work for vCom, and you're kind of just been tooting our horn for the last 3 questions, so I appreciate it. But I kind of want to dive in just a little bit deeper into that, just to make myself feel even more better. What are current partners saying as to why vCom has been a fit for them?
Yeah, again, I just go back to that trust aspect, right? Like, these guys came in, they answered the questions, they're very knowledgeable, and I feel like partners are saying they put me in a good light with my customer, right? Nobody wants to bring somebody in that kind of falls flat on their face. I mean, that makes everybody look bad. And, I think ultimately the rubber's got to meet the road at some point. And, vCom is actually backing up what they're saying. And that has been, I think, a big part of it, right? You got to talk the talk, but you also got to walk the walk. And so a lot of the partners that we've engaged are saying, I'm really happy with the way this worked out. And that's the kind of thing that we look for as to whether we recommend that company again and again and again.
Yeah, that's awesome. Brandon, is there anything you want to close with regarding vCom before we transition into kind of the closing part of this interview?
Yeah, I think vCom, and Graeme talked a lot about the channel early, and I loved everything he said. I was kind of riveted, but I would say that vCom is relatively new to the channel. We've only had this kind of offering for a couple of years now. For 21 years of our history, we were direct to consumer, and really came into the channel because of demand. We had a lot of people asking us, "Hey, how can we sell your software?" And we have our own software platform that is very mature and game changing, and people wanted it, and we didn't really offer it to them. So we've been able to monetize that and get that into the channel, and we're seeing a lot of results from that. So I would say that's a key component to our growth and success. And then Graeme was also talking about how the channel is kind of the hidden gem, and I think the veil's coming off, though. I don't think it's as hidden as it once was. We're seeing massive growth in the channel, and 10 years ago for sure, and now there's still people that don't know, but I think a lot of companies are turning to trusted advisors that are impartial, agnostic, and historically they get all their information from the carriers or the providers. They bring in a bunch of providers and learn from each one and pick the one they want, versus bringing in an advisor first who can understand their needs, say, hey, here are the 3 suppliers or providers you should consider, and then be able to set up the meetings and coordinate that with that customer is a really more efficient way to manage it. And the advisor is providing a tremendous service being in the middle. And I think as a supplier, and we're, like I said, we're new to the channel, but we are certainly benefiting from those relationships and being introduced as, hey, here's a supplier you really should consider for these reasons. And then we go and we talk to that customer, and a lot of times they're finding that we do add a lot of value and we can help them. So anyway, that's a really exciting aspect of the channel, and I think it's bringing a lot to vCom, and I see us doing a lot more on the channel going forward, just as the channel's growing for everybody. It will for us too.
Well, here's the name of the game, right? More is expected of IT now than ever before. Mm-hmm. IT used to be the people behind the curtain who just did whatever is needed to keep the company afloat. And now every company is a technology company, whether you say you're a technology company or you're not. And with that comes the basis of trust. Does the CEO, does the CFO, do they trust the IT team to deliver what they need to deliver? And the thing with this is, with all of these big transitions, right? Whether you're transitioning to the cloud, whether you're transitioning to a more modern network, or like Graeme said, everything's mobile now. These big changes, I don't want to be too kind of dramatic, but can make or break, the success of a company.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of trust needs to be established there. And so when you can finally get to a place where you're working with a tech advisor who's working with a TSD, and all of a sudden trust is kind of just implied because they've worked with them so much, gone is that fear of, I had a bad experience with outsourcing. I don't really want to do it. I want to keep everything internal. Or like Brandon was saying, all the mistrust that could just happen because of certain deals that you're making. I think there's something beautiful about this. We need to sort of create this baseline level of trust. And I think that's why, like Brandon was saying, the veil is coming off, because here it is, this channel, which is all based around this idea of, I went to them for one thing and it worked, and I want to go to them for everything else. And they have the knowledge that I could never have. I just wanted to say my piece on that after listening to both of you, just getting that full understanding of the channel. And I got sold, and I'm not even trying to be a supplier or provider. So I just want to appreciate you guys kind of shedding light on what the channel is. And I have a lot of hope for the future of that, but also just the future of IT and our role in the industry and business in general. With that being said, Graeme, I have 2 more questions for you. What goals, personal or just for your role, what goals do you have moving forward?
Yeah, no. So I think your point at the end there was very well said. The one piece I would just add to that is all of these demands are coming at these IT teams, and they're not getting more resources to address them, right? So I think that's a big part of it. So my goals personally that I have going forward, obviously I'm the mobility and IoT guy, right? I'm banging the drum on that. My goal is to make sure that our partners and tech advisors are well positioned to take advantage of these trends that are happening. I mean, we really didn't touch on IoT, but that's another area that's exploding and ready to explode. And I think AI is a big part of that. So, my goal, professionally is just to have as many of these kinds of conversations as I can, so that the tech advisors that work with Telarus are comfortable having these conversations when they come up, and they don't miss those opportunities, because I think that they're going to be plenty of them over the next few years.
And finally, are there any last pieces of advice or thoughts you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I think we talked a lot about the channel today and the value it brings and the positioning and enablement that it offers to tech advisors. So if you're not part of one of these ecosystems, you're not working with a TSD, reach out, connect with us, and we can get you set up. And then there's so much here for you to take advantage of, that if you're not, you got to be. What are you waiting for?
Exactly. Well, Graeme, thank you so much for your time. You are extremely well spoken. Brandon said that it was riveting, and I completely agree. I was completely drawn to every word you're saying, and I guess that's part of your job, right? That education piece and being able to clearly articulate. And so I just really appreciate you selfishly just sharing that with me. I feel like I'm 41 minutes smarter than I was 41 minutes ago about the channel, but also just about how to deliver clearly a message. And so I just want to thank you for your time and your expertise and your wisdom. And I wish you all the best moving forward.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here, and definitely look forward to keeping this relationship going.
Yeah, and Graeme, I would add that, a big part of our success with Telarus has been because of the trust that you've had in us and recommending us to others. And we really appreciate that. That's been really important to us. So it's been really a key element to our partnership with Telarus.
For sure.
Well, again, Graeme, thank you again, and take care.
My pleasure.